Good afternoon. This is the video newsletter for Buy Sell Short for Monday, September 12th. We're starting off today with the Dow daily chart. Friday, big sell-off in the market, and again, it's like a broken record that I just tired of keep saying it over and over again. Europe yet again has screwed the markets over. This time we had a couple of pieces of news coming out on the same day. On a Friday ahead of 9/11, which, didn't help matters at all. We had one of the top ECB guys resign with 3 years left on his term. This is the ECB guy who is opposed to them actually helping in the bailouts, doing bond buys. So the fact that he was annoyed enough to resign pretty much tells you that the ECB is working on or probably going to expand their bond buying program. We also had another bit of news out there where Germany is looking to set up some funding in case of a possible Greek default. Something's probably coming down the road, just given the kind of sell-offs we've been seeing. The average guy is always the last one to know. And going into this weekend, that's why I sent that email out early on Friday. It was time to just, sit back right now, high cash. We can trade intraday moves. But for the most part, we want to be 90, 95, even 100% cash nightly until we get some clarity in this market. The risk-reward in holding a lot of longs in this market is just not there. And likewise, the risk on being heavily short in this market is just the same. I mean, you've seen many times over the last several weeks how this market can just reverse on a dime. We can be down 250 points, and 5 minutes later, we can be flat. So just a market to stay very, very nimble, half positions or even 1/3 positions if you feel the need to trade right now. We're just trading water. Just like I said in that webinar last week, we are just biding our time for the market to come back. Now, looking at the Dow daily chart, and actually a lot of the indice charts right now, they're not the best looking charts here. You see this? We've had a higher low in place since that early August bottom. We are in jeopardy of breaking that tomorrow. Now, if we don't get any bad news from Europe overnight, we could see some sort of relief rally, some patriotic rally tomorrow. But that all depends on what comes out of Europe tonight and tomorrow morning. So if we do see that, this higher low may be intact. But see this right here? This looks or is an inverted flag formation. Here is the pole. Here is the flag. Now, you recall in a normal flag formation, when it breaks, it goes nicely higher. The same is true for an inverted flag. If the flag breaks down, we would see some serious downside on this Dow chart. I mean, we could easily fall to 10K if this pattern did come to fruition. We do have RSI weakening. Stochastics are losing the 50 level, which I don't like, and unbalanced volume just shows you the rats are fleeing the ship. So if we flip over to the SMH, you can see the same sort of thing. We've got an inverted hammer. Now, the SMH was actually really, really strong on Friday. We had an Texas Instruments come out and warn. They lowered their guidance, they lowered their revenue, and the stock rallied. So did the SMH. It held up for most of the day, but going into the close, the selling was just too much, and, red it went. But very, very positive indications for the medium term. And the reason I say this, SMH leads the market. Typically, the SMH tops first, and typically the SMH bottoms first. Now, the last couple of big bottoms we had back after the flash crash and then back in 2009, we had the SMH continuing to sell off. Then we had some big warnings, some downgrades, and the SMH and the stocks in the SMH like Intel, Texas Instruments, etc., started to bounce and put in bottoms. And that ended up giving us a medium-term buy signal. So I really like the fact that the semi-stocks held up very, very well in a bad tape on Friday, given the warning. That is a sign for us in the medium term that perhaps this carnage could be over soon, meaning, in the next, hopefully the next month. Markets typically like to bottom in September, early October, so that is the scenario we're looking at. And of course, it's all going to depend on whether Europe gets their ducks in line. U.S. dollar, we actually haven't mentioned the U.S. dollar in quite a while. It's been gold and everything else going on. But we had a breakout in the U.S. dollar today. First time this year we've got a break on Friday through the 200-day moving average. Now, the last time we had that happen was back during the 2010 flash crash into the summer, where the dollar ran from 77 all the way up to 88. You know, that was almost a 14% move in the dollar back then. We got our first breakthrough on a basing consolidation here, so not something we really want to see, because dollar up means euro down, and you know, if the euro is going to continue to go down, doesn't bode well for the U.S. markets. Will be good for oil prices. We'll have to see what happens with gold prices. As for some stock plays, I sent out the pop scan today. Again, everything, our eye is on intraday scalping for now. PRKR, Parker Vision, very strong in a bad tape on Friday. They actually came out and announced financing. They raised about $7 million. They got a great price. They sold shares at 88 cents. Although, this is probably why we saw this in August, was the financiers shorting the stock. This was them covering as they waited to get their financing done. Breakout 1. Patent plays continue to go. We've got RSI breaking 50. Positive MACD going to come tomorrow in all likelihood, and Stochastics breaking 50. So this one will be on strong watch for a possible add on a $1 break tomorrow. SPEX up huge on Friday, 100% move. What was the blockbuster news that came out of these guys? A preclinical drug showed some promise. Now, let me get this straight for you. This is not a drug that's in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. This is news that said rats did well on their drug. Preclinical. Many years from fruition. Which puts this one on the short radar for tomorrow. Now, this is a low float stock. And the last big spike we saw back in June, it was a 2-day run. It had a nice spike high after the open on the second day. So that is what we'll be looking for on this one. Remember, it is a low float, but might be worthwhile picking up some shares if you can. Really, really small. Ideally, it'd be great if they could spike this one up to the upper threes to the $4 level for a possible short tomorrow. Target would be moved back to 225, 250. Even if you don't short this one, this is definitely a great way to learn this shorting setup. So keep an eye on it, stick it on the radar for the next few days, and see how it goes. OPWV, very, very strong on Friday. Again, the patent plays continue to be very strong. Breakout, we'd be looking for a breakout on this one. You've got a couple of choices. You could buy the break of the 50-day moving average at 189, or you can wait for a break of 196. This one seems to have a magnet to that 200-day moving average up there at the 213 level. So this one will be on watch tomorrow. Micron, very, very strong over the last couple of days. Almost broke through that 50-day moving average. It actually would have probably made a challenge on $7 Friday if the market hadn't imploded. So definitely on watch for some continuation on this one tomorrow. Maybe a break of 554 or 654 as a trade scalp. 675 to 7 target, and you know, we can decide where to place stops based on the open tomorrow morning. COOL, Majesco, Cool, our gamer stock, very, very strong over the last couple of days. They've got earnings on Tuesday. This one kicked us in the ass on its last earnings report back in June. They blew their numbers away, and the stock lost 40%. So, you know, this would be one I would sit on the sidelines, although I wouldn't be surprised to see it do the opposite move that it did after the last earnings report, because everyone expects it to sell off. As for a play tomorrow, probably a possible scalp entry on a 275 break, and we could get 10 to 30 cents on this one, especially if the market has a green bias tomorrow. So definitely strong watch on this one. And of course, you know, if we're watching this one, we got to watch GLUU. Chart is not the greatest here. Actually, I really don't like the chart. I'd love for this one to sell off back to the 275 under area. But if we do see COOL run, traders will jump back into this one. And it's been actually giving 15 to 20 cent intraday moves lately. So definitely on watch if we've got an upward bias in the market in the morning and COOL is running. Now, last but not least, we've got another gamer on watch to keep an eye on. TTWO, been really, really strong over the last couple of weeks. Breakout 1365, could give a move up to that 200-day moving average at 1421. So this is another one we'll be keeping a close eye on going into tomorrow. So that's it for the video. If you've got any questions, feel free to send me an email. Don't feel bad about being high cash in this market right now, guys. This is a very, very difficult market. You make the wrong step in this market, or if you're long too much of a stock, you can get hammered in this market. So half under positions if you must trade. Otherwise, hand sit. Ideally, best place to be is high cash nightly. Now, what's probably going to happen is, which is typical in markets like this, after our 300-point sell-off, if there's no bad news from Europe, or we get some brief little bit of good news, you'll see the market jet up big, gap 100, 200 points. That's just the nature of the beast in this market. It can easily gap down 200-300 points as well. So that's why being high cash, and staying pretty flat overnight is the place to be. So that's it. I will see you guys in the chat room tomorrow. Goodbye.